So this folder here has 25 signed vendor contracts in it. It's from copier leases, all kinds of stuff in here, software subscriptions, so on. And no one's really read it. No one really knows what's in here. And it's scary because there's auto renews in here, and some have been renewing for 3 years. And so what I'm going to show you from soup to nuts is how I created this little micro app, this little asset for a company that reads every one of these contracts. Not only that, it's not just a dashboard. It kind of uses a little thin layer of AI to kind of see what was missed, what is critical, what's important, put it on a watch list. This is a great video if you're wanting to learn how to code and how to use the architect builder method and how to use my project launcher. I show you everything, soup to nuts. This is exactly how I do all my projects from big and small. And so this is a long video, but if you're interested, some of you are asking, you like these demos. And so I'm going to show you soup to nuts how we built this. It's only 4 sprints, but I wanted to show you how I do it, how I start with the brainstorming, how do I, do the architect builder method, how do you commit to GitHub, how do you set things up in Supabase, all that kind of stuff. So it's all wrapped up in this video. And if you're interested in learning how to code and how to become an entrepreneur and use this to help people solve problems or build things for yourself, this is the one to watch. So let's get started. You would think that the normal place to get started is in this project launcher that I have. The hardest part of starting any coding project is getting everything set up, getting the file structure. That's why I have the project launcher. I set this up for myself because it gives me that architect builder schema that is so important. But you can start here in the sense, because I want to show you something here. When you start a new project, there's a box up here that's called optional, but for me, it's almost mandatory, because you're going to have to fill out, when you start a project, you're going to have to fill out this architect intake to get the folder schema that we're talking about for the architect builder. Well, you can certainly go here and answer all these questions, but what I always do every single time is I brainstorm with a large language model, and that's what we're going to do. Now, there is a prompt up here, like I said, in this optional, that you can use to start a conversation in ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever large language model is your favorite. And we can use that prompt to help us extract the ideas. But I'm just going to show you how I do it. And then I'm going to come back and grab this prompt to extract the information from the brainstorming session that we're going to do. And I'm going to do it. I usually do it in Claude. That's my preference, but I'm going to do it in ChatGPT because they've updated it, right? And I want to see how well it can do. And they've combined ChatGPT and Codex into one app. I know some people don't like this, but it's more like Claude now and using Cowork. And it's kind of nice using Cowork instead of just a regular chat, or in this case, ChatGPT work, because now it has eyes. It can see folders. And that's exactly, since I've got a folder worth of 25 contracts in here, I'm going to want to be able to have ChatGPT see it. So let's do that. Let's start a new project here in ChatGPT work. Again, this is the first time I'm using this. Let's use an existing folder. It's called my desktop Meridian. There it is, Meridian contracts. So I'm going to connect it to this folder with all the contracts in there, okay? And so now it can see all of those contracts, which is going to be important for my brainstorming session. So what do I want to do? I want to make sure we'll do Sol High. I guess that's fine. I've got, it's the latest version in here. And I'm just going to turn on my microphone, guys, and I'm just going to brainstorm with it, okay? So let me turn on the dictation here, the little microphone, and I'm just going to start talking to it. Hey, I need you to brainstorm with me. I got a company that I work with. It's called Meridian Field Services. They're a 1.7 million commercial HVAC outfit here in Kansas. And I've got a folder that I've attached with you that has 25 signed vendor contracts in it. They're copier leases, they're waste hauling, telematics, security, janitorial, I mean, you name it. A building leases in there, a bunch of SaaS stuff. And nobody has read most of them. And they did scan them and put them in PDFs for me. And they want me to evaluate them. And what scares me about these contracts is that they auto renew. A lot of them do. Some of them renew for years and at a time, unless somebody sends a written notice for a specific date, they just kind of auto renew. And those dates are buried a lot of time in the section 2 of some of these documents. Some of them have automatic price increases and nobody's tracking this. And for all I know, something renews next week. And what I think I want and what I need your help with is, and push back me if you think this is wrong, is some kind of watchdog, some sort of micro app, an asset. I don't want just a one-time thing. I want the ability to add contracts in the future, but it's a place, a micro app that an office manager can go to and knows every contract, who the vendor is, what it costs, when it renews, how much notice is required and by when, and what happens if we don't do anything. Something that ranks as urgent. What do we do about it? Again, but this is not a legal research tool. I don't want it to be some enterprise contract platform. I want to keep this small, local, and simple enough that a non-technical office manager checks it like a pre-flight, right? So help me work out, number one, what's the smallest tool with a minimal amount of sprints that kills this risk? Because I'm doing a demo for my YouTube audience here. Who touches it and when, and what the app must never do. I don't want it giving legal advice, like I said. And for what happens when a new contract gets signed? Can we dump it in here, and can it get updated? So keep the decisions crisp, keep the sprints small and concise, because I am doing a demo on YouTube, and I don't want to drag it out too long, but I want to make it meaningful, right? I want to show that, create potential of what can happen. And when we're done, I'm going to paste a prompt from my project launcher, and you're going to help me fill out a format in Markdown so I can do my intake form, so I can start my architect builder process. I'm going to probably do this with an architect in Claude, and I'm going to do a builder in Cursor using Cursor's agent. So can you help me with this? You can't do anything wrong, right? I think sometimes we overthink it. Just think about and just get it out of your head, right? And it will do an amazing job translating it. I treat it like when I'm doing a large language model brainstorming session or anytime, it's like I'm sitting across from this hard charging employee that practically knows everything, but can still make mistakes, right? It's almost like if you can think about it in those terms, it's like, how do you communicate intent, right? Leave the how up to the tool, right? And let them do the heavy lifting, just like you would if you were a leader of an organization. Your job is to communicate what you want to accomplish and why. And their job, the large language model, is to come up with the how. Just like you were if you were an office manager or a leader in an organization, you get your best employees in front of you and you communicate intent. You don't tell them how to do their job. You tell them what you want to accomplish and why and by when. Okay, and look how powerful this is. I really do like this ChatGPT work. Compared to other brainstorming sessions, this really went above and beyond. And so I really like this. It says, yes, this is a strong micro app idea. Cool. My pushback is that it should not become a general contract dashboard. Ooh, I like that. It should be a narrow operational control system built around one question. What must Meridian decide or do next, and by what date to void? Yeah, I agree with that. And this is the difference, guys. This is an important point. I see people are getting comfortable with AI. They'll go into ChatGPT, they'll go into Claude, and they'll put this folder in and say, examine this, evaluate this, and come up with a solution, which is perfectly legitimate to do. But you're keeping it within a chat. We're taking it one step further, and we're creating an asset. So it's a difference between creating a one-time off, solution, or continuing this chat conversation and you're eating up context, or do we create an asset that we can use over and over again? So that's the difference. So it says here, the folder already proves the risk, right? So it evaluated these folders. It shows that 19 or 25 appear to auto-renew, so we're already seeing the risk. The smallest useful product, I would call the first version Meridian Contract Watch. It's a home screen. Its home screen is not charts. It's a pre-flight checklist. Critical now, act soon, plan ahead monitoring. Every contract should answer these questions. What happens if we do nothing? The agreement states that it renews in another 36 months. It should say Meridian is legally obligated to pay. Okay, cool. The 4 essential screens: watch list, contracts, contract detail, add contract, no analytics suite. What happens when a new contract is signed? Here's a workflow. I love it. Who touches it and when? Office manager, contract owner. What the app must never do, give legal advice. Thank you. All that. Okay, here's the sprints. 3 small sprints. Cool. Perfect for the demo, right? Sprint 1, see the risk. Demo moment. Sprint 2, keep it alive. Upload future PDFs. I like it. Sprint 3, make it a watchdog. 3 sprints. Crisp product decision. Build a private renewal and obligation watchdog. It's prompt. Man, one question, one little thing, and it gave me all of this. This is so powerful. it pretty much answered all of the questions, I think, for this demo. Now, if this was a bigger project, obviously you would spend time, but I think this is a good spot, particularly for the demo. I will probably go back to my project launcher here, and I'm going to grab this prompt. And again, the reason why we have this project launcher is because it gives you that architect builder scaffolding, that folder structure, which I'm going to show you, and it has all the agents within it so that you can start having this architect builder conversation. And you could be asking, well, why do I want that? Well, it's just like building a house, right? You could go to a general contractor, the builder, in this case, an agent, a coding agent, and say, hey, go build me this. Just like you could go say, build my dream house to a general contractor. But hey, you need to probably go to an architect to extract your dream and have an architect build the plans and let the builder build based off of those plans. So I'm going to copy this prompt in here. I'm going to go back to our conversation. And I'm going to say, hey, here's the prompt that I use for my architect builder to fill out my intake form. Can you take a look at it and, carry out the intent of this prompt and give me that markdown input so I can fill out my intake form? Ask me any questions if it doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to paste the prompt in here while it's filling out the things. And I'm going to hit enter. Let's see how well it does here. All right, so ChatGPT work came up. Here's the output we're looking for, right? We've got this nice markdown format that's going to help us fill out our intake form in the project launcher. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to go back to our project launcher, and we're starting a new project. I'm going to paste that content right there. I could download a file and upload it, but I'm going to pre-fill the form. And look at that. That's exactly what we were wanting right here. Look how nice this is. Again, we could go straight to the project launcher here and fill out this information, but how much easier was it to have a nice conversation in ChatGPT or Claude and just spend the time, no time limits to brainstorm, and then take that prompt from here, take it into our chat, and then have it extract that information. Look how nice this is, right? You got the business problem defined, you've got the users' roles, the pain points, the current workflow, the target workflow, buyer's tool, all that stuff is filled out for us. And you can edit this too. I mean, you can add things if you want, right? And so you're not limited to this, but just it makes life so much easier. And it'll pay off here in a second as we go forward. So the magic here for the project launcher is this right here. What we're trying to do is to create that architect workspace. So we're going to hit that enter, and the project is going to ask me who's using this app. This is going to be a micro app. And so then we create the architect workspace. And again, this is what you have the launcher for. We got a project called Meridian Contract Watch. All the input that we filled out is all right here again, just to repeat. And you can edit this if you need to add something or you made a mistake, and then you can relaunch it. But the key for this step right here is that you wanted to get this download or this zip folder. You want to download and generate the folder. This is the architect builder method in this schema, if you hear right here. So you can see right here, I've got this folder that I unzipped called Meridian Contract Watch. It's got all Watch 2. It's got all of these documents in here that are pre-formed. They're templates really ready to be filled out by the architect and the builder. It's because it creates the historical knowledge that we were talking about. We want that historical knowledge so we don't have these hallucinations, this context getting eaten up in a chat. Now it's all handoff is pushed off into this folder structure that you see right here. This is what makes the architect builder method so powerful. So you can use any tool that you want. It's tool agnostic. You can start in Claude, you can finish in Codex, you can do a session in Cursor, you can mix and match, whatever you want to do. Because everything is getting updated in here. So all the instructions, the personality of the architect builder method is all within this folder structure. This is why you get the project launcher, to set this up. This is the value that you get for the project launcher. And I'll show you as we go through it how it'll pay off. So now we want to get this new project onto our hard drive or wherever you do all your projects. In this case, I have a folder on 120X, and it's this purple one called builds. I put all my builds in here. These are all my coding projects that I'm working on at the moment. And so I'm going to take this folder and I'm going to move it into here, right? Into my folder structure. I'm going to rename that and get rid of that 2 there. So now my folder is in here. I'm down with my downloads. I'm now ready to have a conversation with the architect, the whole process, to start the coding process, right? The architect is going to create plans, the builder is going to code it. So we need to make a decision. Oh, and the one thing before we do that, I'm going to connect my folder in mission control in the project launcher. So I'm going to open up this folder, select it, and now I can view my folder structure here. I can also see when I get updates here, I'll show you where we're at in the project. It'll show the architect briefing so you can always see where you're at. And most importantly, you can read your planning documents in here that will get created. Your architect is going to create architect packs, and your builder is going to execute off of sprints based off of the architect pack. That's how you got to look at it. So agents, you can see that the project is updated based on our input. We got the roles, the files to read. This is kind of the beginning brains. They'll read the agents first, and then it'll read the state, where we at in the project, next actions, any decisions that we make about the project will get logged in here. All the intake folders I do need to update our folders, or those 25 folders in here. So I might do that before we start the conversation. And so, because if you've got spreadsheets, if you've got folders, you're going to want to make sure that you put those in the appropriate place. So I'm going to open up Meridian Contract Watch here, and there's a place, and again, there's no rules. I have a place in here for, you can either put them in samples, sometimes in planning, you can put them in references, samples, client docs. So that's where I think I'll put it. Again, you can create your own folder and do it. Just because I have these in here doesn't mean you have to put them in there. I'm going to put all of those folders, those PDFs in here in the client docs. So there's my Meridian contracts. I'm just going to move them into my client docs, into my project, so that the project's going to have context. So now we are in a spot to where we need to have a conversation with the architect. And I'm going to make the decision. I'm going to do the architect in Claude Code. Again, you can pick Codex, you can pick whatever you want, but I'm just going to show you that you can use different things. So I'm going to open up Claude, and I'm in Claude Code. I'm using the desktop version. You could do this in the terminal version if you wanted to. But I'm going to start a new session, and we need to make sure, and we are, that we're in the right folder, right? In Claude Code, any of your coding agent, when you're starting your session, you need to be pointing into the right folder. We did the intake form, downloaded the zip, and unzipped it. We opened the unzipped folder in the coding tool, which we just did. We opened that in Claude Code. And now it says to run the architect to produce the plan. And so we're using Claude Code, so we're going to run /architect. If you're in Codex, you would run $120x-architect. If you're in some other coding agent, you would copy this prompt to kick it off. So we're going to do /architect. And I'm going to go back to Claude Code. I'm going to hit /architect. You can see that it pulled up the skill, and I just hit enter. And what's happening right now is the skill is going through and reading all of those markdown files, the agents.md, state.md, and it's bringing itself up to speed. And eventually what we're going to do is he's going to say, hey, here's the big picture. I'm ready to start brainstorming with you. The first architect session is basically a discovery session. In fact, all your architect sessions are discovery sessions. They are ways, if you're starting a new feature, everything else, you're having a conversation. Do you start a new architect conversation for every pack? Not necessarily. Sometimes you can do multiple packs in one architect conversation, but just remember your context window, which you can see here in Claude. There'll be, when we start having the conversation, this little dot right here, you can see a little blue just ended up. It shows the context of how much context window I have in this session, right? So we've got a lot of context. So that's why sometimes it's not bad to do. You can do a couple conversations. But for my builder conversations, I usually do a new session for each sprint. It'll make sense when we go through this. Again, why are we doing this separate architect builder? As you know, we're doing this because just like if you were building a house, you could go directly to a builder and say, build me my dream house. But if I separate and create an architect personality, just like you would in your dream house, isn't it better to have an architect help you extract your dream and come up with detailed plans so the builder has no ambiguity of what it's supposed to build? He says, here's the big picture. Meridian Field Services, so it's just reiterating what we already did from our intake form. It's read through it. It's acting like the architect. It understands the architect builder process. He knows he's not going to write code. And so what we're planning is a private watchdog app. Nothing has been built yet. Today's job is deciding what the first version actually is. I'd like to talk through 4 things before I write anything down. I'll give you my recommendations. You can just say agree or push back. Who actually logs in? The intake has this. Is the AI extraction the app itself? Target workflow. What comes first, the watch list or the emails? My recommendation, sprint 1 delivers an extraction, so on for what counts as urgent, so on and so forth, and then react to those 4. I'm going to tell them that I put the folders in that folder. And what folder did we put that in again? So I'm going to just turn on the microphone and react here. Hey, I'm just going to go with your recommendations. I'm making a demo for YouTube, so I want to make these sprints as minimal sprints, and I'm pretty much just going to go with your recommendations for the sake of time. So whatever you think is best for those 4. I will tell you that I put the 25 contracts in references/client docs. You will find a folder in there with the 25 contracts. What else do you need from me to get started to create the pack? So I'm going to hit enter there. And so wait for its response. I can't emphasize how much easier it is to just turn on the dictation and just talk to it. And once you start getting comfortable with the dictation, you can never go wrong. And even though that it'll have misspelled words, it still knows what you're trying to say, right? And it's saying nothing else is needed. You give me everything. I check the folder. Here's what's locking in. 1 login, all extraction and app via the Claude API. Order. Sprint 2 is upload, extraction, verification, urgency here, so on and so forth. So this is the demo. I'll keep every sprint deliberately small. Again, I'm just doing this for the video. If you're doing a real app, we get more detailed. Nothing speculative, no gold plating. We'll generate a GitHub repo here in a second. The method has one formality. I don't generate the pack until you explicitly say so. Just say generate the pack. I'm going to copy that and paste that and say generate the pack, Bubba, and away he goes. And so while he's generating the pack, usually takes 2, 3, 4 minutes, depending how big it is. You might want to create a GitHub repo. Well, you need to store your code somewhere. And what better place but for the perfect cloud code storage place, GitHub. And so what I'm going to do here, it's for free. You can set up for free, but I'm just going to set up a new repo right here. And then we're going to call it Meridian Contract. And it says it's available. I'm going to keep it private on the visibility. And then other than that, I'm going to keep everything the same and say create a repository. And essentially what happens there, I've got a link now right here, a hyperlink for this repo or repository. And that's what we're going to use to push our code. So it's like a place to save it, right? How many times have you got through 5 or 6 pages and you haven't done a save, and then your battery dies in your computer, or the power goes out, or your computer dies and you lost all those 6 or 7 pages? Well, same thing with code, right? As you're writing code and you're hitting milestones, push it to your GitHub repo. So you always got a place to fall back on. And then when you deploy it, you're going to have to, when you compile it, when you do it on Render or Vercel or whatever, you're going to have to pull from GitHub, right, for your code. So it's just a place to get the code off of your desktop, backed up into the cloud in a GitHub repo for coding, right? And so that's what we're doing. So he's generating the pack. So I'm going to pause this. When the pack is written, I'll come back. We'll pick back up. All right, he's done. Looky here. It took about 4 minutes, I guess. He read that. Pack's done and verified. Architect pack 001 is saved. I ran the importer. What's inside? The 7 lock decisions, the 3 sprint roadmap, draft architecture. And this is what's so powerful about this, guys. Look, we'll go back to mission control and project launcher, and you can see it updated that we're ready to apply the architect pack. So it knows where we're at. But look right here. If you look in the folder structure, you can see in the architect packs, there's architect pack 001, and we can read it here. Look how much information is in here. This is why I love this architect builder method. You're not going to get this by just going into a coding agent and just saying, hey, build me this. This is the discipline and the structure that you need, to that historical knowledge that's going to prevent the hallucinations. You're going to build it right, and it's going to be able to hand off to any coding agent or human being. They're going to know what you're needing to do. So look at the decisions that we made, that we're doing right here. The domain, what about the business, Meridian Field Services? This is the goal, the project type, the secondary users. Look at all this organization. Business rules, known constraints. These are the risks that we have, right? All this documentation, all of this. This is the detailed set of plans that is going to give the builder, which we're going to do next, and build it in here. Sprint requirements, this is what we're going to do. This is the detailed set of drawings and plans if you were building a house, for example, that the architect would give the builder, right? So these are the detailed set of instructions. Here's the blueprint, right? Here's the acceptance to to make, and here's the handoff prompt. So it's already created a prompt for the builder. You are the builder. This is what you're going to do. Apply this. And I'm taking my time going that this is the power behind the architect builder method, guys. I absolutely love this. I cannot tell you, if you got a mess in Replit or Lovable or right now, this will bring that structure in. I've done this many times with clients. They've had multiple messes, 6 months worth of code in a mess, and we brought it in this method, and it just brought clarity and alignment to their project. So the architect has done its job. So now we need to have a conversation with the builder. And I said we're going to do this in Cursor, right? I could do this in Codex. I could do it in Claude Code. I could start another session in here. See right here, this is the discussion that I'm in. I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to capitalize this architect, and we'll call it pack 001. And then I'm going to rename this or move it to a group. I need to create a new group, and we'll call this Meridian contract, right? And why do I do that? Well, that way it just gives this, now I've got this project here, and I got a little organization, and I know what I'm doing right here. So architect pack 001, right? So if I was going to do the builder in Claude Code, I would do a new session, and we would be all right here. But I'm going to do it in Cursor. Just number one, used Cursor in a while, and it'll give me the ability to save some tokens as well. I'm going to do a quick update right here, and then we'll do Cursor. My cursor's updated. This is my builder session, right? So this is where the coding is actually going to take place. And I'm going to do a new agent. And the same thing is, like, we need to make sure we're in the right folder. This is the wrong folder. So I need to make sure, open a folder. And I'm going to navigate to my builds folder. There it is, Meridian Contract Watch. Open it up. I'm in the right place, right? And over here, it actually created a thing right here. So I'm going to do 120x builder, and I'm just going to hit enter. And I couldn't remember. Sometimes it remembers ChatGPT skills or Claude skills, but it remembers. Oh, I forgot that I did this in Cursor Grok 4.5. I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to use their composer, but let's see. We'll use Cursor Grok. Let's just see how it does. So basically what it does is, I'm assuming the builder roles, the status is apply pack, pack isn't applied yet, dry run result. So basically it's just saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write and create and update these files. Do you approve? I'm going to say yes, approved. I could technically take that output back. If you're new to this and you're confused, you could take it back to the architect and say, hey, do I approve this or not? That's the value when you're using the two methods. I'm okay with it, just approve it. And so basically he's writing everything, they've applied it, and you're ready for the builder handoff. And I'm going to say yes. And this first sprint is usually just discovery and updating files. There's usually no coding in here. Some people have complained about that, but again, it's basically a documentation and discovery sprint session. And it's not that exciting. So basically it's just like he says right here, sprint 001 is paperwork only. The pack already wrote the plan. My job is to check it. They did. Scope guards, he will not do this. So again, it's just setting the stage. And so we're done with this and approve this plan to proceed. I'm going to approve it because it's not all that exciting. So I'm going to say approved, marking status building, and then he's accepted and closing the sprint. So that's pretty much it. Not very exciting, not very sexy, no code, but it did lay the foundation by making sure that all of this documentation, you can see that it updated and it's saying where things stand. Discovery is done and written down. The project now hits a clear plan of what to build. Recommended next action, start a new architect session for architect pack 2. So you see how the mission control is, if you're new to this, it's telling you what you need to do. It's giving you this architect briefing, which is critical. The builder always updates an architect briefing to tell the architect, hey, this is what I did and this is what needs to happen, right? This is what I mean about the context not getting lost and what the builder did on updating everything, right? So we're done, and that is done. If you want to, you can rename this just so that you can say builder sprint 001, just to rename it so I know. Now I'm going to go back to the architect, which was in Claude, and I'm going to stay in this session because if you look down here, I've got so much context. I'm just going to say 001 is complete. And what he'll probably do is read the architect briefing just to make sure, and then he'll start generating architect pack 002. And that's when we really start writing some code. And so should bring himself up to speed and read that architect briefing. And yes, you can see that, right? Sprint 01 closed. reading the briefing. So he's going back here. He's bringing himself up to speed, reading this. Where's my architect briefing at? Is it planning? Oh, I'm going to reconnect. So he's reading that briefing, bringing himself up to speed. Says the builder's briefing checks out. Sprint 001 is closed, clean, all that. So here's where we are. This is what I love about the architect. The thinking is done. The app still doesn't exist today. We're shaping sprint 2, the core content watch, which is the first sprint where real code gets written, right? When it's done, you'll be able to log in, upload a contract, and watch the system propose the key terms with page references, so on and so forth. Saying true to middle and fast. Here's the shape I recommend. 4 small calls I've already made for you. Runs locally, deploys later. Yep. Bulk import script for 25. Yep. Verification bar for the sprint. 3 contracts, not 25. The sprint is accepted when all 25 are imported with extraction proposals. Review screen stays Spartan, right? 2 things you'll need ready before the builder can run the sprint. A Supabase project, free, and that's true, and an Anthropic API key, both going into this. Never into the repo, right? If that shape works, generate the pack. I'm going to say generate the pack. And so again, since we're going to be using a database on here for this app, I need to set up a Supabase project and an Anthropic API key, right? And so if you don't know how to do that, ask your builder or your architect how to do it step by step, right? And so essentially what you're going to do, Supabase is just a way to have a database on the back end. And because I already have a free one, that's okay. I'll set it up. I'll pay another $10 temporarily. I'll do a new project and we will call it Meridian and we'll create the new project, right? So we're creating a new project and it's creating the database. It's going to take a while for it to set up. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Anthropic and get my API keys because I'm going to need one. And I will create a key and I'm going to call this Meridian. And then we're going to expire this in 1 day because I don't need it. We're going to add to it. And then there's my key that I'm not showing you, but we're going to use that here in a little bit. So we've created the Supabase. I've got the Anthropic API key. Again, I'm keeping it hidden from you because you don't know it. It's going to expire anyway, but you're going to need that key, right, for the code when it does the evaluating the contracts. You're going to be using Claude to do that. Now, if you wanted to use ChatGPT or you want to do something else, do the same thing. Just go get that API key for ChatGPT or for Gemini or whatever large language model you're going to use for that AI layer for your app. All right, the pack is done. And same thing, he saved it at this. Sprint builds, first real code, does a next.js and a TypeScript, Tailwind app, full pipeline, so on and so forth, scope guards. 2 things you need before the builder can run it, a free tier Supabase project and an Anthropic API key, which we did. Both dropped into .env.local. I'll do that here in a second, and I'll show you how to do that. The builder can still present its plan without them, but init validation is blocked. Show you again, the project launcher. If you go ahead and you redetect, it should update, they're at, and it says right here, apply the architect pack. You can see now that architect pack 2 is in here. Again, the detailed set of plans of what we're going to do. Again, this is going to be telling the builder what he has to do. So all of this stuff is getting updated. Here's the requirements, what you're going to look for, everything else. And so we can go back to our builder now, which is in Cursor. Where is Cursor? Right here. And I'm going to start a new agent, even though the first one was kind of small and you technically could do it. And I have plenty of context in here. I like to do my technique and I highly recommend. Doesn't hurt anything. Just start a new chat. I'm going to rename this builder. You can name it whatever you want. You don't have to do what I did, but just so I know that I'm in builder sprint 2. And again, I use Grok and I wasn't planning on it, but it seemed to be doing fine. I'm going to just, for the sake of it, to use Grok, but you could use anything. You can use their composer, which Cursor's composer is very nice. It's very efficient and very fast. The thing I hate about Claude Code and Codex, it's so freaking slow sometimes, but you need that. If you got something really complex, something to do, Claude Code and Codex is the best. If you got some basic stuff, particularly starting out with the early sprints, which are more logistical and administrative, nothing wrong with doing it. But I'm going to stick with Grok just for the sake of it because I've never done anything in this Grok that just came out. So same thing. I'm going to hit a 120x builder again. It understands that code and it's going to, or skill set, and it's going to do it. Oh, it took my rename away. I should have renamed it after it started, right? Builder 002. I know what that is. I can call it whatever I want. All right. So He didn't write anything. It's basically saying I did the dry run. This is what's going to be created. Dry run. Yeah, say approve. Then he's going to do a code plan. Normally I do that. That's happened automatically with that deal, but I'm going to say approved, deploying it. So it's not writing code yet. Again, it's just updating the documentation. It creates these sprints. Did it create 002? Yeah, it did right here. So if you look right here in the sprints, he's creating sprint 002. So there's an acceptance criteria. For each sprint, there's always 4 things, right? There's always an acceptance, a blueprint, a handoff, and the requirements. And that's the builder's job, is to create those folders and then adhere to them. Here's the blueprint that he's going to write the code against. Here's the acceptance of what done is. This is the handoff prompt that he's going to read, or he's reading or read. And these are the requirements. Like, why are we doing this? So I love this. And this is very structured and disciplined so that the builder knows exactly what it's supposed to do, right? So he's applying it. And I said, apply, are you ready for the builder handoff? Yes. And this is when he's going to come up with the plan for the code. And in Claude Code, this is more automatic. Like, it does the application and the builds and then just comes up with the plan. So now he's going to be a handoff prompt and going to come up with a plan. And so here's his plan. What I like about Cursor is it's so fast. Like, Codex and Claude Code isn't that fast. Okay, so here's the important part that I want you to do. I built a stop gate in here because you want the architect to get a second set of eyes on the plan. I cannot emphasize how many times this has improved my code and saved my bacon, right? The architect finds something, not always, but sometimes finds something that is applicable, right? So he's basically saying, hey, this is what my plan. He's not going to build this. This is what acceptance is. Here's step 1. These are the blockers. Approve this exact file to start building. So I'm going to copy all of this and I'm going to go back to my architect, right? And again, just for a second set of eyes, always getting a second set of opinion. Oh, it's just, okay, I'm okay with it. And so I'm going to paste the plan that the builder said and said, hey, dude, what do you think about this? And if I'm going to be anal retentive over here, I'm going to rename this and 002. Instead of starting a new conversation, I'm just continuing with my architect for multiple packs. That's the builder stopping the gate as should. And since you brought the plan here, here's my conformance check before you prove it. Again, if you've not coded before, and even if you have, I love this assurance. I love this back and forth. I love that I got someone in my corner that's backing me up and looking at it. This is why this method is so powerful. Is a little bit more back and forth? Can be, but it's going to save you in the long run. Trust me. Verdict, the plan is faithful to Prac. I'd approve it as is. I checked it line by line and acceptance complete. 2 notes for you. The approval has to go to the builder. You can approve now and provision in parallel. That's fine. That's just full review. And if he had something to pass, I'd say, hey, give me the prompt that you want me to pass back. But he's basically saying everything's good. Just approve it as is. So Grok is kind of kicking ass over here. And I'm just going to say, hey, approved. And now, after all that trouble we've gone through, but it's worth it to keep it organized and disciplined, now we're finally writing code for the first time. So you might think that administrative stuff is kind of a pain in the ass, and you're like, well, why would I be doing that? Like I'm telling you, it's going to save your bacon. You're going to get to the end, and you're not going to have any logic errors. You're not going to have any linter errors. You're not going to have any hallucinations because we're writing to that folder structure. If you've been having trouble, like I said, I worked with multiple people now who had this beautiful ideas and bought into the vibe coding thing and like, hey, I killed it. And they tried it in Replit. They tried it in Lovable. They tried it in these other, and they just got a mess. But in that mess, there's some diamonds in that rough. And so our job with this architect builder is, if you have created something like that, is we extract it out of it. And I've done this multiple times, and you can see 2 testimonial videos on my page for the launcher. They're like, once we got it cleaned up for them, So consider if you've done it. If you're new to coding, do it this way. Not only are you going to understand what you built, as opposed to some of these vibe coders out there that are sitting there going, hey, just tell it what you want and throw tokens at it. You even see the guys from Anthropic saying that. Well, I think that's bullshit, I come up from that era. I learned how to code back in 1990, 1991, 1980, 1989, back in the Stone Ages. And so my instructors and the way I learned when I got my degree was, if you're spending more than 10% of your time on the computer, you're a hacker. You need to be spending your time planning and programming. So I just took that methodology and applied it into this. And so that way you've got that discipline, you've got that structure. And so now when I get done and I've handed this off to my clients, they're like, wow, this is very clean. So maybe you get it to a certain point and you need to hire a developer. You can hand them this GitHub repo with this organization and they're like, dude, I know where you're at. I've had many a developer comment on my organization of the stuff that I've handed off to them. So trust me, this is well worth the time doing this. Okay, so you can see that he's writing and doing and code, and I'll show you some of the code here in a second, but I'll pause it, and when he gets done, we'll pick back up. Okay, so at a certain point, and this is interesting, there's some great lessons here that you're going to learn on this if you've never done this before, because you need to read what it actually said to do, because there are certain things you need to do as the coder. The Sprint 002 app code is built, local quality checks passed, live end-to-end testing, and sprint close still need your keys, right? So what you have is a private web add, so on and so forth. I know we haven't seen it yet. Checks that already passed into this. What you need to do next about 10 minutes. Create a free Supabase project, which I did. In the SQL editor, paste and run this migration, right? And so if you go in here into your files, sometimes it'll hyperlink that you can click it up. It says paste in SQL editor, go to Supabase migration 001. So over here in the file structure, which is the same file structure in the missions, migrations, and there's the schema SQL, right? So we put this and update this in Supabase because we're creating a database here. I'm going to copy this code. I'm going to Control-C it, and then we're going to go back to our Supabase, and I'm going to go up here into the SQL editor, and I'm going to paste this SQL command in here. I'm going to run it. And essentially, hopefully we get a success, no rows return. We did, right? So essentially it's creating all these fields, creating some tables, which it did, right? And so the table's empty, but at least it set up the schema, and that's what it told me to do there, right? And so what to do next, and then create a private storage bucket named contracts. So I'll do that in here. And again, you can just follow it step by step. You click storage, and then right here it's saying, hey, click new bucket, fill in the name, we'll call it contracts, lowercase, no spaces, public bucket, leave this off, create bucket, hit save, create, and now it's saved. And then confirm it looks right. You see a bucket named contracts. I do. Something like private next to it. Yeah, it's fine. And then after this, make sure you run, and I've done this, right? And then create one authorized user email and password. So I'll go over here and we'll go to authentication and we'll go to users. We'll add a user and we'll create a new user and we'll use this Ray at 128x.ai and we'll choose my own password, auto confirm the user, and create the user. So we've got one created. And then it says get an Anthropic API key, which I did, and we'll copy that into env.local. I'll do that. And then, so I'll go copy my API key, which you can't see. And then env.local, let me close this SQL command over here. And if I look at my files, which I had open, I want to make sure that env.local right here, and it's telling me to paste my Anthropic key right here. So I'm going to paste it, and there it is, right? And it says done. And then we also need to fill out the other keys. So we need to get the Supabase URL, which I'll go over here. And to get the one good way to get it is just copy it right here when you go to the home base. And I'll just Control-C that. I'll copy that there. And then it's asking for the anon key. And then again, from here, we'll go to project settings. And we'll go to API keys and secret keys, legacy anon. We'll get the anon key here. We'll copy that and we'll paste that there. And then it's asking for the Supabase service role key. And the service role key is here. It's secret. And again, you can't see it. I'll copy it. And then I'll go back and we'll paste that there. And so now I've got all my keys in this env.local. And then we just need to save it. Okay, the nice keys. I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to close this over here. And it's starting the dev server, waiting to be ready. And it's saying the dev server is starting, waiting to be ready. Keys look good, and the app is running. Open this local host. So I'm going to go ahead right there. I'm going to open it up. And it's not loading, so I'm going to say did it load? Yep. And it loaded, and it gave me the password. Sign in. and it said it failed to fetch. We got an issue right here. I'm going to go ahead and copy this issue. And I'm going to say failed to fetch, paste that error right there and see what he says. And so it's basically saying failed to fetch usually means the browser never reached the Supabase, wrong URL, pause project or network, not a wrong password, checking URL whether Supabase responds. And so the thing I want you to walk away with is it said found the problem is set to the dashboard link. Oh, not the API project URL. That's why it failed. So the correct use is this. Oh, that's right. So I copied the wrong URL. And so it comes from project settings, gear, project URL. So that was my mistake right there. I should have known that. So I'm going to go back to my files in the environment, open up my local file. I'm going to make sure that this Supabase URL, which you guys cannot see, and replace it right with the right one. Hit save. And then I could always run a new terminal here, paste that. Okay, they started the web servers for us again. Let's go ahead and try to log in again with our fixes in there. And it looks like we've logged in. We got one issue. It's a hydration issue. That's not a big deal. I'll just tell them logged in, have a hydration issue. And then I'm ready. So it's asking us, so if you're good to continue, let's bulk import the 25 contracts. And we'll say I'm ready. And again, this is basic. It's just making sure we'll work the UI to make it look more sexy and stuff. But just making sure the plumbing is working and that we can connect to something and that we can extract the PDFs and it can connect to the Anthropic API and we can go from there. So it's saying right here, the bulk of the import, this will take a while. Each PDF goes through Claude, so expect roughly 20 to 40 minutes total. Okay, he's importing those, and it says it actually only took about 5 minutes, didn't take the 20 like it said, which is fine. All 25 contracts are imported. First one, Claude was temporarily overloaded. That's fine, but the API did it, redid it. Said what you should see, refresh this, and under not verified, you see 25 contracts. It says open at least 3 contracts, click a contract for each 11 fields of verify, correct your NA, then activate and try to make at least one landing critical or missed. And then once we've activated 3, including one critical, tell me and I'll finish the acceptance checklist. So we'll go back here. And again, we'll look at the first one here. It's verified. We'll just verify all these things. We'll verify, but it's basically just looking at the contract and you're verifying the termination terms, verify, record decision, verify. We'll activate the contract. Contract is active. That's fine. And we'll go back to the home page. Do we have a verified one in there? Or are they all unverified? So I'll pause and I'll verify 3 of them here so you don't have to watch me do it. Okay, so I've all 3 and 2 of them one's critical, so that's good. So I did all that and I'm just going to tell them done. And then from here, we'll close out the sprint. So this was a good example of they're writing code, but you got steps that you got to do. Like we had to set up the Supabase account. We had to get an API key. We had to update the .env file, which had all the keys and everything. And then we had to kind of run them and actually look at the UI and verify. And so now he's verifying the acceptance and then closing out sprint 2. And again, it's not science, but you do have to pay attention. And the thing of it is, if you don't know how to do something like setting up the Supabase account or setting up, finding the example of setting up the buckets list, if you don't know how to do something, ask the coding agent, hey, give me a step-by-step. And it'll do it. And sometimes it'll even do things for you. Like, hey, can you this command in the terminal? Just tell the agent to do it. If you don't know what to do, ask him and tell him and say, explain to me like I was a 5th grader, and do it. And that's just how you learn. These agents can help you. And so don't get intimidated if you don't understand something, right? All right. So he's updating all the files. And once it gets closed, I'll unpause this again. Oh, he's already done. So you can see right here, the sprint 002 is closed, verified, acceptance snapshot. So it met all the criteria. What's next is sprint 003. And then that means it's a new architect session. So I will take this from the builder. I'll go back to the architect and say, I'll say like, he says sprint 3 is done. And then I will paste what he said and just see what the architect says. Can't hurt to have an architect give a second set of eyes on this, right? Particularly if you're new to this, you're unsure if everything was done. Having this architect builder method with all that criteria that you've got another set of eyes checking to make sure that all the work is done. And then he comes back and he says, confirm the builder's briefing checks. Everything looks good. Here's where we're at. I'm reading now as a working watchdog, but only barks so and so and forth. Okay, so staying with my recommendation, here's the shape I propose. 4 calls, hosting Vercel, free hobby tier, 1 recipient, escalation schedule, the Monday digest, so on and so forth, and say generate the pack. I'm going to say we will host on Render because I have an account with Render, and I want a sprint at some point to improve the UI because that UI is kind of basic. So I'll just see what he says. So he's basically saying to Render it is. Here's how the schedule will work on Render. The UI sprint goes on the roadmap, so I'll add sprint 4. Everything else stands. And I'll say generate the pack, and I'll just say generate the pack, and off he goes generating pack 003. Now again, looking at the context, I've used about half of my million tokens for this context, so that's okay with me. We'll do architect pack 003, and as a technique, I'll just rename this just so that I have it clear in my head. 002 and 003. And again, there's nothing wrong. You can start a new architect session, but again, with the context and it's got the history and this is kind of quick, it's just my technique. But again, for the builder, I will start a new session, right? So I'll pause it here until it generates the pack. All right, architect pack 3 is done. And just again, to show you on the mission planner, if you want to go back to the mission briefing on the project launcher, again, we can redetect it or reconnect it. Again, same thing, where things stands, the core app works, recommended next action, start a new architect section, produce architect pack 3, which we did. Here's the full briefing if you want to. And again, you can look at your packs that were created. It's just rinse and repeat. I'll do a new session in Cursor. We'll do the 120x builder, and away we go. And the only thing that I haven't done is committed the code to GitHub. Normally after each sprint, I'll commit to GitHub. I can have the architect do that, and while the is doing this, he's coming up with a dry run supply. I can go back to the architect. Well, I can go back and I'll get the hub URL, and then I can go back here to my architect and ask them. You can do it yourself and run commands. I say, can you push to my GitHub and see what it says? And again, there's all kinds of techniques you can learn about GitHub and what to push and do branches and do PRs. But I'm just going to commit to main right here since this is a simple project. And he said, yes, I can do it. It's going to commit to GitHub. Now, the thing that you got to remember, like in that local file, there are API keys. You never, ever, 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 ever your keys to GitHub. You don't want people to have access to any of those. Those should be hidden, right? And so make sure your secrets are ignored. And it is. And they'll do, when you ask them to commit, they'll do the safety checks to make sure that your .env and other secrets are ignored. So everything that gets staged, none of your secrets get pushed out there to the cloud, right? All right, so they're killing the files and pushing it to GitHub. I'm going to go back to the builder and let's just see. Oh, so it's pushed. So let's go ahead and check the repo. I just want to show you. When I go to GitHub and I click on the code in my repo, and if you look up here, so basically what it did, it just took it's basically a snapshot of my file folder system of this project is now in the cloud. And that's what you see right here, right? You got planning docs, right? You got your architect packs, all that stuff. It's all here. And so the thing that you want to look back, if you look at the code, is the commits. And right here, I got one commit. So there's the commit that it's pushed. So I've got this snapshot in time of where it stands like right now. So if anything ever happens, I can always load this commit up and it's just like loading a previous version. So think of them of like saves, like when you're writing your college term paper. I'll go back to the cursor or builder. Let's see how they're doing. He says, I got this. This is his plan. This is the plan. We can read it. I'm going to take it back to my architect and say, here's the bill. We'll paste it, and then we'll get the second set of eyes. He said it's approved. Nothing to pass on to him. So I'm just going to go back to my builder, tell him approved. Again, sometimes when you get complex projects and code, the builder will have, or the architect will have more to say. And so he's building and starting to write code. Oh, and just so you know, I didn't show you last time. If you look at your files, sorry, you go down here to your source code. Here's where you can start to see, there's the code, right? You can look in your source code. You can, if you want to geek out and you want to learn about what's all in the code, all the code is right here in your source folder. And you can use like these IDEs like to read the source code. Again, it's all right here. So in addition to all the documentation, everything that I've been showing you with the planning and the architect briefing and the decisions and the file inventory, the intake, questions, open questions. I mean, this is just amazing. The risks, the state that we're in, this organization, you keep it. All right, the builder finished its sprint. It's done, he says. Tests, what he built, acceptance. What we need to do, again, this is why you got to be here, humans involved, in the Supabase SQL editor, paste and run this migration. Where do I find the migrations? Again, I can find them in my files. I'm going to close this state and close this just so you can see it in my files. I can go to Supabase migrations, and there's the second one. It's highlighted green. I can click on that. I can highlight all that. I can copy it, and then I go to my Supabase, my database, right? I can go to the SQL editor, put in my new query, paste it, run it. Hopefully I'll see success. We did. And so what the builder told us to do, and then it said add these to the environmental local. And so I need a Resend API key. Now this is for email. Again, this is specific for this project. If you don't know what Resend is, it's just a way to, an email tool to help the app send email. So I need to get an API key. I do have a Resend account. And so I'm creating a new API key, and then go back and it says it needs a cron secret, any long random string. I'm going to ask it, can you cron string for me, please? It's just a random number that he needs. There it is right there, cron secret. So then I'll go to environmental local. I'll open up that file again. And again, environmental local, you're going to see it. And so it's going to say I need a Resend API key. So I'm going to go ahead and put that. I'm going to put equals, and then I'll go back and get my Resend API key. I'll copy it, paste that in there. And then it wants a reminder recipient. And so I will hit enter. I'll just put Ray at 120x.ai, and then the cron secret. And I'll copy this. And then what was the last thing? The email from, and it'll be the same. And I'll say aininja.pro@gmail, and we're done with that. And then so I'll close this back out. So it's asking me for a test. It's gonna test on my email to make sure it all works. So went there and ran a test. It said recipient looks good. Sent 3 emails. I checked my email account. There they are. So it sent the emails, the 4 emails actually. Deadline missed. Has passed. And next for full sprint, we'll close and commit. I said, it all looks good. I said, close, commit, and push. And we'll close this sprint out. And he's going to push this up to GitHub. And then we can go back to the architect and we do that final sprint that make that UI look a little bit better. That's sprint 4. So I'm going to copy this just to tell the architect. I say, hey, look, we still go over here in the architect down here. I'm just going to stay with the same architect. I'm going to paste that, hey, he's done, and just see what he says. And then while he's coming up with a response, just to show you, we committed. If you look up GitHub, if I refresh this, and look, we got that next sprint. So now we have 2 commits in here, right? The first one we did, and this is the second one we did for sprint 3. So it's being saved. So we've got a backup to our code. And then we go back. This is the last sprint, guys. And again, I know this is a long video, but if you stuck this far, that means you want to learn how to code. This isn't get rich quick. This is how to do it the right way. Build anything you want, no matter how complex. This process is still the same. We're just doing 4 quick sprints here, but your project maybe had 150 sprints. You can build something amazing. All right, so he's saying sprint 3 is closed. My recommendation as usual, look and feel. I'd go for confident professional operations, the review screen upgrade, the minimum stay out, so on and so forth. We can generate the pack. Now, there's one other thing too. There are skills within Claude that I downloaded, or plugins that are like UI specific to them. There's a handful of them. You can use those too, but for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to go with his recommendation to pack. And I'm just going to say, I like your recommendations, but I'd also want to say, make it sleek and professional, small fonts, small bubbles, nothing big or bubbly, or just nice and sleek. modern is what I'm looking for in addition to what you say. And with that, generate the pack. And we'll see how he comes up with. Okay, architect pack is, again, same thing. I'm not going to show you where it's at, but it is, if you wanted to review that in the mission briefing, you could certainly do that. Just reconnect your file or refresh it. And again, you can see that we're in building architect pack 4. Sprint's closed. You wanted to view your file in here, you could certainly do it. There's architect pack 4. You could review that. We're going to go straight to our builder. This was builder 003, builder. And then now we're going to start a new agent within Meridian contract. And same thing, 120 our build, 120x builder. There we go. And is going to read everything. And then I'll come back when we get a plan approved. And same drill as before, he came up with a plan. I'm going to go ahead and take and copy this plan, take it back to the architect and ask for approval for any other notes. He's saying the verdict is faithful to the pack, approve it. So I'm just going to say approved. He didn't have any other extra notes to pass, and he'll start building. Again, technique, I'll rename this. Again, this is my technique. This is builder 004, just so I know. All right, so he's got the build done. He says, what's new? He says he's got 5 different things for me to look at. He gave me a link. So we'll go there. So there's the watch list. So it looks much better, right? Contracts, add a contract. All looks good. Drag and drop and choose a PDF. Much better than what it was before. And again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just to show you, like now, like we can loads the PDF for us here. We can verify it so you can see much better than the original first pass. And so you can just kind of see how I tweak this as much as we can, but it looks pretty good, right? And again, just for the demo, I'm not going to go much further, but obviously if this is a real one, I would just keep going back and forth and tweaking it to it, but much better than what we were looking at in Sprint 2. Yeah, looks pretty good. I'm going to approve this. So the design gets approved. He's closing the sprint, updating it, and we'll commit and push. So the app is fully built after the 4 sprints. We certainly tweak it from here, but let's see what's actually been hiding in that folder, because remember, nobody had Meridian knew any of this. And so, man, 17 missed. That's crazy. Let that sink in. 17 exit windows on these contracts have already come and gone without anybody acting. And so look at Blue Sky up here, right? The web hosting contract. Its first cancel window was way back in 2024. That's 2.5 years. This thing has been quietly renewing itself. That's insane. How much is that monthly amount? $240. This one hurt more on this Waste Pro. My God. 377 days overdue. That contract just locked in for another year, $2,350 a month. That's $28,000 a year, and nobody in the building felt a thing. So again, now that you can see it visually, you can see it in DocuFlow. Look, we got 3 days until it renews, so maybe we can get ahead of it. Again, 1180, you can review the contract, and then maybe in 3 days, it's when the renewal is the effective. So you have to renew this because you got to give it 90 days notice. And so that 90 days is in just a few days. So again, it's just giving visibility. Again, this was just 4 sprints, hour and a half worth of work, and you can see it. And then the big thing is, what if you want to add a contract? So then let's go ahead and upload it. And it's reading the document. So hopefully it's going to run the AI against it, and hopefully it'll add it into the mix. And there's the contract unverified. So we would just have to go through and verify all of the stuff in the contract. Commits effective for a period of 12 months. Auto renew, verified. All right. If there's any action or follow-up we want to do, we could add that there. We'll just activate the contract, and it's active. And if we go back to the watch list, that new contract is down there. And there's next gen, and we've got 297 days to worry about it, right? So anyway, that's the app. And so that's the difference of taking those 25 folders and then dropping them in and just chatting about it to building an asset. Again, we can tweak this from here. This is just an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of work, and going back and forth, we can make it however we want. And so the point is, asking an AI a question or building an asset, chat's going to give you an answer that dies in the conversation, or we can do this method and give you something that's still on duty next year. So that's it. This was the most detailed demo that I've done. And again, it was simple enough. I did it in 4 sprints. And it's kind of a real world example, but simple enough so I could get it condensed down to show you and hitting all those high points, right? I mean, some of the that we did, we started out with that brainstorm, which was critical. We used that project launcher. Again, the project launcher is so critical and it helps get everything organized. I created this tool because it was taking me so long to set up the schema. And I said, hey, just help me create something that automatically sets up the schema. And it puts that whole architect builder, the personality, the rules, everything about the architect builder. The architect's never going to write code. He's just going to plan for you. It's one of your greatest assets, having that architect there that be able to, brainstorm with you each step along the way, and you keep it organized. And that's the goal, guys. I mean, I've never done this before, or maybe if you've created a mess in Render, I've talked to so many people, I've helped so many people have come in my cohort, they just had absolute messes in anti-gravity or Replit or Lovable. And I sat with them and within an hour or two, we had everything migrated over into this file system that you see right here, where the architect creates all the packs, and then the builder creates these sprints, and each sprint has 4 things in it, and every single one, you got your decisions being captured, the information about your business, that's what domain is, questions that are open, and when they get answered, all the risks that are involved with this, and what the stuff of them are, the current state. You could take this and you could hand this to another human, to another programmer, developer, and they'd know exactly, and they would be impressed. So in addition to your source code, it has all that organization, that context. So you can take it to any tool. It's tool agnostic. And the project launcher just gets you set up and gets you going so that you can have that organization, right? These coders, these coding agents, they don't tell you how to do that, right? They just say, just open up Claude and start talking to it. And which is true, you can do that, but it's the same thing. You could go to a general contractor and say, build my dream house, and give him a sketch on a napkin, and he could build it, but it may not be what you want. You can build anything, guys. If you set your mind to it, you got some tenacity, some ability to see the big picture, the ability to communicate with a large language model, have a little bit of tenacity, have a little bit of patience, and have some curiosity, you can build anything you want. I hope by me showing you this demo that you can do this. Get this product. It's not get rich quick. It's just a tool to help you get you started. Everybody that's in here, the 200 plus people that have bought it already, you can email me directly. A guy emailed me today and said, I need some help. If you want to get in my cohort, I'll build it with you. It's $2,000. We'll be connected in perpetuity. I got people in there and I'm helping them, and I'll get you going. So if you got a messy project, and I've got some guys in there building some big, complicated projects, and they're excited. This is the best time to be an entrepreneur, guys. Take advantage of it. Learn this skill. Learn how to do this, either for yourself and building tools for yourself, or building tools to help solve problems for people. You can build anything. You can find the problem. You can solve it. You can build anything. And so join my community. Follow me on this channel. Get that project launcher. It's going up to 197 here on July 24th. It's been 149 until then. Then it's going up to 197 here on July 24th. So this is a chance to go grab it. All right. So if you got something you want me to build, you've got a spreadsheet or something, send it to me. We'll do it on here. Maybe you can get a free little micro app for free. Be a good demo. Maybe we can build it together. So send me something and I'll let you know if we want to build it. All right. Until next time, let me know what you're going to build. See you next time.